Hi everyone, my name is Reed. I'm the founder of an up-and-coming tech firm that's been doing really well in its field. Not to toot my own horn, but I've done really well for myself, after a lot of struggle. I've been living in LA for the last 10 years and basically survived by waiting tables between the ages of 17 and 22. While doing that, I taught myself design and communication through MOOCs, met some super talented people, and developed an online influencer marketing platform to help small businesses. During all this, my family was of no help. They're all on the East Coast and things between us are kind of strained. It all stems from my relationship with my brother Tyler. Mom and Dad always treated Tyler like their golden child. They both prioritized education and had Tyler studying as soon as he could speak. He skipped like 2 grades, always at the top of his class, and took every AP subject imaginable and things like that. As for me, I was the polar opposite. I was absolutely terrible at school. I didn't read, didn't study for exams, nothing. As a toddler, I was obviously interested in a bunch of stuff, but it just wasn't the right kind of stuff. Before things really soured between me and my family, Mom told me that I was really social and loved to help other toddlers in the playpen. It's just that these things didn't translate into tests and exams. I was constantly compared to Tyler, and it fostered some resentment in me. As for my brother, he didn't avoid a single chance to rub my stupidity in my face. I remember when I was 11 and he was 13, Tyler and I got into a fight over who could use the computer. I need to use it right now. I have to email my teacher about extra credit classes. I know, but you can do that in a few hours, please. I need to talk to a friend of mine. He lives in another time zone, and we're thinking about how we could do something fun for his birthday. Oh, how does that matter? If you didn't spend all your time talking to weirdos on the internet, maybe you wouldn't be such a disappointment to Mom and Dad. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I had to put up with. Apart from how mean Tyler was to me, I was also given fewer opportunities than him when it came to my parents. I always had less time devoted to me and began to feel like a write-off. The favoritism was painfully evident and ruined my childhood. By the time I entered high school, my self-confidence had fallen off a cliff. I wasn't failing classes, but was a bit below average. Even though I had a lot of friends and worked in a bunch of clubs in high school, my parents always considered it all a waste of time. Tyler had started college by then, and our local paper even wrote about him as a boy wonder. I get it. When you looked at my brother as a sum of his achievements, he was a pretty amazing guy, but he was a real snake when it came to people. Everyone that he spoke about was just a means to an end. Like the dude didn't talk, he just networked. I will say, it's not entirely his fault. Mom and Dad were also high-level executives, and it became their mission for Tyler to get into investment banking. Around the same time as his college started, a girl named Maria moved into our cul-de-sac. She was the first girl I had a major crush on, and the two of us became friends really fast. Our friendship slowly blossomed into feelings for each other, and I finally felt less burdened by the ordeal my parents put me through. Talking to her was just easy. Good things never lasted during my childhood, and my bond with Maria was also severed, thanks to Tyler. When my brother was back for spring break, he spotted the two of us talking and approached me. Hey, who's that girl you're talking to? Her? Oh, Maria. She moved in when you started college. Lives next door. Damn, she's hot. Is she single? Dude, that's icky. I mean, technically, yeah, she is single, but I'm planning on asking her out. You? Why would she want to be with you? No offense, bro, but you've got nothing going on for you. Hell, the way you're going, you won't even get into a good college. At least I don't look at everyone as a career opportunity. Listen, I think Maria likes me for who I am, so why don't you just drop it? I hoped that my brother would have the good sense to stay away from Maria, but that wasn't the case. I asked Maria out a week later, and she reciprocated my feelings. But every time I called her over, Tyler would try to hang about, openly trying to flirt with her. Needless to say, Maria didn't see anything in a guy who was just constantly talking about how many competitions he had won and where he was going to intern next summer. In fact, as soon as he was out of earshot, she would turn to me and complain. Maria, Reed, your brother's kinda weird. Can't we hang out somewhere else? I don't really like coming to your place anymore. He's just a little weird, Maria. It's tough for me to get along with him too sometimes. Things took a full 180 degrees just a month after that. Without any warning, Maria suddenly broke up with me. She wouldn't give me any details, and it almost felt like she was disgusted with me. I was heartbroken, and the fact that I didn't have any closure just made things worse for me. It was my first proper relationship, and to have it end so suddenly when things were going well really screwed me over mentally for a while. What was worse? The reason things ended. I would never have found out unless one of Maria's best friends, Julie, approached me. I was sitting alone during lunch, and to my surprise, I looked up to see her staring at me intently. "Reed, how have you been?" I heard about the breakup but just couldn't believe it. I'm doing okay. To be honest, Julie, I still can't understand why Maria dumped me like that. I have no idea what I did wrong." "What? You can't be serious, right? Maria's been crying about what you did for weeks. How do you have the guts to act innocent in front of me?" "Act innocent? What?" "Julie, I have no idea what you're talking about." "Oh, at least your family is more honest than you are. Your mom confided in Maria that you had called some other girl over. She didn't want to see her get hurt, which is more than I can say for you. You think you're cool because you have a bunch of friends, but how does that matter when you're so heartless?" I was shocked. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, and as soon as I got home, I confronted my mom about it. To my surprise, she didn't even try to hide it. Apparently, Tyler had been in a slump because of his fixation with Maria, and my mom thought it was okay to get me out of the equation because it was a simple high school relationship. She was hoping that Maria being single and angry with me would eventually lead to Tyler either moving on or being able to get into a relationship with her. I can't even begin to describe how angry I was when I heard that. Even thinking about it now, after so many years, still makes me furious. I tried to speak to my dad about it, but he washed his hands of the situation. While he didn't agree with what Mom had done, he said that it was for the best if I moved on. That was when I knew that my family, especially Mom and Tyler, would never look out for me. I had two options after that point: continue to live with my parents until I turned 18, or try and start a new life myself. If I stayed with my parents, I knew that they would force me to divert all my attention towards getting into a college that wouldn't embarrass them. But on the other hand, I really didn't know how I would live alone. We weren't close with any family members, and my strongest bonds were with my friends. However, a lifeline came from one of my buddies who had moved to LA a few years ago. He was going to get an apartment in a few months and was open to letting me room with him. This friend of mine was a few years older than me, and we had only kept in touch online. The fact that he was willing to help me out was amazing. The only hurdle I had left in my path back then was standing up to my parents. This turned out to be easier than I thought, since Mom and Dad both seemed happy to have me out of the nest. The only requirement they asked of me was to complete a college course during my time in LA. I will admit that my parents were okay with helping me financially, as we were quite well off. So, with a couple of $1,000s to get me started, a referral from my dad to work with one of his corporate buddies, which I never ended up doing, and a half-hearted "call us if you need anything," I was off to LA, the city of angels. The first few years were rough, but I think they shaped me into the person I am today: tough and resilient. I lived off of coffee and instant noodles. As I mentioned before, for the first few years, I was waiting tables. However, Mom kept calling and hounding me to join a college in LA. I did get accepted to Azusa Pacific University, but it just wasn't manageable with my job. I had ideas about helping people with their social media marketing, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I had to go to college and sit through boring lectures. Eventually, I dropped out, and when my parents found out, they were furious. Tyler, as you would expect, just laughed at me and said that I deserved it for giving up. I didn't speak to anyone in my family for a long time after that. Honestly, I didn't take it as much of a loss. I also quickly made friends at my job and eventually began to work in brand management for the restaurant I was working at. I didn't have a college degree, but I was able to impress the owner with my ideas. With better pay, I moved into a flat of my own and worked with a friend who had given me shelter in those early years to create a platform to help small businesses market themselves to millennials and Gen Z. I was learning from lectures from Harvard and Yale, which were available for free on YouTube. With the pressure of my parents off my back and the convenience of listening to lectures on my phone, picking up new things became fun for me. Within the first year, we had 40 businesses signing up for our service, and the number just kept going up and up as we improved our work. By the time I was 25, we secured funding, and I was bringing in $1 million yearly. Naturally, I got a financial planner and started being more careful with my money. A lot of what I earned went straight back into the business. Because of that, I wasn't exactly flashy with my money. During this time, I sometimes had a desire to check in and see what was going on with my family. There were a few stilted phone calls with my parents, but I never told them much about my business or what I was up to. To be honest, I had tried at first, but Mom and Dad just brushed it off as a money pit. I guess they both thought I was just throwing money away, and I wasn't interested in getting their validation anymore. As for Tyler, I never spoke to him. Every now and then I used to stalk his social media, and that's how I knew that Tyler had turned into a big-shot investment banker. His social media was plastered with pictures of him in fancy suits and several humble brags. This culminated in an episode that brought all the pain of my teen years back to me. One day, I saw that he had changed his status on FB to in a relationship, and it was with Maria. That turned my stomach and sent me spiraling. I messed up a few meetings, had a bad few weeks, and eventually decided that stalking Tyler's social media wasn't good for me. Evidently, I still wasn't over Maria. I took a social media detox and slowly began to address what had happened with my family instead of avoiding it. Cut to a few months ago. I had just turned 27 and things were going amazing for me. I had healed from the past and become accepted fully into life in LA. I was no longer angry with my mom, dad, or brother. If anything, I felt like it was their loss to have given up on an amazing son like me. At the same time, my relationship with Dad had gotten better, and we spoke more often and casually. He was genuinely apologetic for neglecting me as a child and didn't expect any forgiveness from me. However, I tried to put myself in his shoes and at least understand where he was coming from, which gave us both some closure. TSK wasn't the same case with Mom, though. She was still adamant that whatever she did when I was a kid was for my own good. During one of the calls with my dad, he brought up the fact that Tyler was getting engaged. "So, your brother is getting engaged? To Maria?" I'm surprised she stuck around that long. "I'll be honest, kid, I am too. I wanted Tyler to understand that knowledge is important for a person, but he thinks that being smart makes him better than everyone else. Every time they come over for dinner, he makes that poor girl look stupid." Sheesh, you should really say something then. Like, Dad, you feel the right things, but then you let Tyler and Mom get away with all the crappy stuff they do. I know. It's my own fault too. But listen, the reason I brought it up was because I was hoping you could come. I spoke to Tyler about it too, and he would like to have you at the engagement party. It's at the Waldorf in New York, 3 weeks from now. Would you be able to make it? Dad, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. First off, I really doubt whether Tyler wants me there. I think he's just doing it out of obligation. No, son, it's not just that. I just feel like we've not been in touch like a family should, and I really want you to meet your cousins and extended family too. Even if you weren't really close to them, they still miss you. All right, I'll come. I think it would do me some good to put it all behind me as well. With that, my first meeting with Tyler was going to happen after almost 10 years. I thought I would dread it, but to be honest, it wasn't weighing on me like I expected it to. I booked the tickets and showed up at the swanky hotel. My dad and cousins were all excited to meet me, while Mom and Tyler were cordial. I exchanged an awkward glance with Maria, and to my surprise, Julie was there as well. She was going to be Maria's maid of honor. I waved to her casually, and she approached me. "Hey Reed, nobody's heard from you in a while. We heard that you'd gone off to LA and were living with that senior of ours. How have you been?" "Yeah, I wanted a change of pace. I've started a business there, but a lot of people here don't know about it. I guess Mom and Dad aren't that excited about me doing something risky. Never mind that, how are you?" "The last time we spoke, you accused me of cheating on Maria. Cooled off now that she's dating my brother. Like, is it even?" When I said this, Julie's face flushed. She ushered me over to a corner of the room where fewer people were gathering and started whispering to me. "Reed, I think Maria lied about you cheating on her. I don't know, ever since she started dating Tyler, her behavior has changed a lot. She isn't happy like she was with you all those years ago, and Tyler just uses her like a showpiece." "No, Julie," Maria believes it. "The issue is that my mom lied. But you never let me explain my side of the story, and well, I was too shaken up to do anything about it. Mom lied so that Tyler could try and get into Maria's pants. It's the worst of many stupid things my parents did. We can't do anything about it now, so let them enjoy their wedding. I've moved on." Julie's jaw dropped when I said this. She apologized profusely for not listening to me, and we caught up and talked the whole evening. When the time for dinner came, Tyler ordered a bunch of things at the restaurant, including a $4,000 bottle of wine. He got tipsy and irate, and people were getting uncomfortable. At one point, I saw him try and rub Maria's dad's bald spot. He was making a fool of himself, definitely. I was sitting with my dad and saw Julie staring at me intently. I guess what I said hadn't left her mind. I had locked eyes with her too, but we were interrupted by the waiter bringing the bill over, a whopping $25,000. Tyler loudly proclaimed that he would pay for everything. Under the eyes of my family, and Maria's too, the card declined. There must be some mistake. This is my Amex Black, it should work. I'm sure it's just a mistake, maybe. Who asked you? Yo, you were just a pity invite anyway. Dad wasn't going to come unless you came too. Everyone gasped, and I felt my cheeks reddening. After 3 more attempts at trying to pay, I finally stepped in and covered the bill. When I pulled out my own Amex Black card, Tyler's eyes popped out of his head. What? How do you have? What? If you bothered checking on your dropout brother, Tyler, you would see that I've done pretty well for myself. Boys, let's not fight in front of everyone. I think we should all go back to our rooms and… Oh, shut up. Maria, you need to know something. Your soon-to-be mother-in-law lied to you about Reed cheating on you. She's a terrible person. And Tyler, you're a douche. Maria isn't happy with you, she's just with you for the money. What, babe? Is this true? Maria stayed dead silent, as a bunch of voices started swelling over the drama that had just unfolded. Tyler's face contorted, and then he began screaming. Yeah, well, the money's gone. Nothing is left. I didn't tell anyone, but I got laid off. There was some shady stuff going on and, well, I was the scapegoat. What are you going to do now, Maria? Ha. At this point, things were so loud that security had to get involved. Tyler was escorted back to his room, and Maria and her family left in a hurry. The only people left now were my family and Julie. All the other guests had also awkwardly trickled out. Tyler, is this what we taught you? We spent so much time and money on you for this. It wasn't my fault, and I was too scared to tell anybody. Listen, I know we've been on bad terms, but you're still my brother. I can cover any debts that you may have racked up. Oh, don't be ridiculous, Reed. How could making posts on Instagram have gotten you so much money? I bet that your pockets are bleeding after paying for dinner. That's enough. I'm sick of you putting down Reed and pressuring Tyler too. He's worked hard, and you can't take that away from him. I was so grateful to Dad for sticking up for me at that moment. After that, Mom walked off in a huff. My family members asked about my career, and I was honest with them. Tyler sheepishly congratulated me and walked off too. That was the end of the night. Well, except for one thing, Julie asked if we could go out together sometime. That was a while ago, and a few things have changed since then. Despite his initial haughtiness, Tyler accepted some money from me and got hired by a different company. There's a lot of baggage between us, and I still don't think he's someone I would get along with. But I guess losing his money had a sobering effect on the guy. He's definitely a lot less condescending to people nowadays. Naturally, his relationship with Maria ended. Funnily enough, she DM'd me on Facebook a few days ago, but I wasn't thinking of catching up with her. The fact that she was only with someone for money left a sour taste in my mouth. In fact, Julie and I are currently dating. She's amazing and doesn't care about my money at all. In fact, she's so dead set against overspending that she won't let me buy her any expensive gifts. I think our relationship is really good, and it's the first one I've felt happy with in a long time. Mom and Dad are splitting up, but it's not a bad thing. In fact, it was high time coming. After the fiasco at Tyler's engagement party, they had a lot more fights and finally acknowledged how incompatible they were. As for my extended family, they are a lot warmer to me now too. When I moved to LA, people stopped inviting me to family events. I guess they thought that I was leaving my parents behind since they didn't know about my mom's terrible behavior. Obviously, there are a few who are only chummy with me after finding out about my money, but a lot more are just happy to have me back in the fold. I'm closer to them now than I ever was before. Although the engagement party really turned out to show Tyler in a bad light, I realized that he was also being pressured by my mom, and Dad was too fearful of confrontation to help him or me. I hope now that Mom isn't able to control us like she did before, we can move forward and live our best lives.